Okay, let's see. This green looks to be a little wider than typical. Let's angle it there, and then well, we can. Can you move that away for a second? Sure. There you go. That's good. So then on here, we'll be more this way. So that's cool.
So I'm sitting right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you go back to
Sure.
I had it on these last time. Issue one of those clip circle lights that Justin has.
Right.
All right. Good.
All right. Thank you.
I'll see you on.
I don't.
Any host privileges?
Sure. I thought I saw Javier.
Oh no, Javier's gone.
Let me text Justin.
There's Justin. And him on here. And let's give you co-host. Co-host.
Still no Javier?
Don't see him.
Okay, let me try to call him.
Maybe we give him a little buzz.
Okay, he's coming. He says he's having some tech issues per usual.
Oh, okay. No worries.
Oh, I forgot my notes. I'll do that. Okay. There he is.
Hey, Mr. Javier. All right, he's joining.
This is Onya.
And let's give him co-host here. There you go. You can unmute yourself now, Javier. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I was in the waiting room for a while, and then I logged out, and then I couldn't get in, and so on. So, but here I am.
Hey, did you get your computer fixed?
No, it was no. It was like last night, last minute, I did a Zoom update,
Uh-huh.
and it seems like that was giving me some trouble. But I was in for a little while.
Oh, cool.
But then I logged out, and then when I tried to come back in, it was like we. Okay, I mean,
Well, it's
and
good
I
to
look
see
better
you.
than ever.
Yeah, you got your tie
Let me
on
fix
today.
Yeah, let me fix my tie.
You look like you're in the office.
No, yeah, no, because I'm going to the Long Beach City Council meeting on Tuesdays, so I interpret that. That is like 10 hours nonstop, simultaneous, taking turns with interpreters. It is bad. I mean, it's all politicians for 10 hours budget, and so it is insane.
Yeah,
They
sounds
go
like
super fast. Public comments are fast and aggressive, so you have to say whatever they say.
Makes
Usually
sense.
they're complaining and cursing and insulting. So it is
Oh
intense.
gosh.
Yeah, because the public, you never know what you're gonna get, right? So people is complaining. People
That's
is
true.
upset about something always. So it's interesting.
And you got to
Okay,
relay
so good to
that.
see you.
All
Yes,
right.
we had to render everything we hear. The council, they want to know what people said.
So you're like
Yeah.
pinche bendejo way. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. What?
Wow,
And we
that's
gotta do it.
stressful.
Well, no, I repeat whatever I hear, and that's my duty.
Makes sense. Well,
Thanks for sending me, Monia. Thanks for sending me the slides. That helps me a lot.
Okay, awesome.
You send me the material. That helps me a lot to be ready with vocabulary.
Yeah, usually if I have like a presentation, I'll send it to you in advance. I think last month we didn't have one because she wasn't really presenting anything. But yeah, I'll definitely try to make sure to have that to you in advance.
Okay, cool.
All right, so we want to start testing out some stuff here. Let's check out the slide, make sure it's presenting right.
Sure. Let me share.
Remember, it is important if, I don't know if you're gonna have questions and answers, but if someone asks in Spanish, I'm gonna click English, I'm going to the English channel. So if Justin or anyone wants to hear that rendition, you have to click English.
That's good to know. Thanks, Javier. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So if you hear me, if we hear something, there is a Spanish speaker, just make sure to go to the globe and select English, so you will hear my rendition.
Your response. Okay.
Yeah, if there is anything.
If that happens, gotcha.
Yeah, I suggest just click English right now and forget about it. As soon as Isaac activates the interpretation,
right. So
click English,
already
and then you forget about it. You will be able to hear my voice, if anything, if there is a Spanish speaker.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Just make sure we have everything. Isaac, are you looking?
Yeah, I'm looking. So, yeah, Javier is familiar with the deal at the beginning of that translation.
Right.
I'll mention it, and Javier will come on and mention it too. And then after he's done with his spiel, I'll then give him the translator feature.
Cool.
So
Excellent.
go over, yeah,
Let's chill.
and then we'll go straight into your Community Voices intro.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monia, when you do that intro,
Uh-huh.
that slide right there, when you go educate, empower, and so on,
Uh-huh.
I know you are very short on time, and this is something that most people know, but you go extremely fast, and so if you can just
Slow down.
tiny, yeah, just give me a few more seconds so I can put in all the words I need to put in. But
Okay.
yeah, I know that you are in a hurry at this point. You need to give the microphone to Justin. But
Okay.
yeah, just a tiny.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll do. This. And then Javier, just a heads up for this slide, I'm really not really gonna go through it. I'm just gonna highlight the partnership. So for instance, I'm gonna highlight TV, working with Parent Voices.
Okay.
And then Ileana wanted me to do something a little different. And essentially, I'm just gonna briefly talk about the Community Voices program, how it's a community-based program. We try to empower and encourage people to be leaders in their own communities. And
Okay.
and how the CV program is about civic engagement. So that'll be the only
Okay.
different thing for this slide, because I feel like people already know this is something that we've been putting, but she wanted me to kind of focus on the leadership, civic engagement, and a community-based program. So just giving you the heads
Yes.
up on that one.
Yes, and the times you did go into the eligibility and so on, I paraphrase you and I go, they eased the requirements. So now you don't have to do it every week. You can do it every 12 months or something like that, right? So,
Okay.
I mean, every time you did it, I had to paraphrase a little bit because of
Okay.
the speed. But
Right.
now I know where you're going. So it is cool.
And there's nothing crazy. Let me see what we're gonna cover today. Justin. And then we'll go into the voter registration information.
Confirmation emails have been sent out, so we should see that participants start to increase here.
Oh, and then Javier, for this one as well, I'm gonna make this a little more personable. So I'm gonna start with my own voting experience before we go into the slide.
Okay.
It's nothing crazy. It's just that I wasn't a US citizen for the longest time. And then when I became a US citizen, I had to essentially learn how to vote. And
me too.
Right? And then this is also my first recall election because I haven't lived in California in over 11 years. So I've never experienced a recall election before. So just kind of talk about that kind of stuff, and then we'll get into this slide essentially.
Yeah, that's great. And I interpret whatever I hear. I do not translate what I see written. So I just follow you, whatever you do. And then if you read from the slide, I just hear your voice. So I am not going to translate whatever is written. I just interpret what I hear. Okay. And that's it. So that is great.
Awesome.
Looks good.
Good.
If you ever plan, if you have a different audience or whatever, if you want to translate these slides and add Spanish into them, I can do that. It's like $10 per slide. If you're ever interested, maybe you don't have the audience right now, but if you ever need all this to be translated, I do that all the time.
Okay.
Oh, it's good to know.
Legal documents too. If you need to legalize your documents, I can do that. Legal translation.
Okay,
All right. That's
I agree.
looking good. Yeah, slides look good. Are we waiting on anyone else to join us? Jackie's not gonna do any kind of
No.
conversation here, so it'll
No.
just be you two up front.
Yeah, this is business as usual.
Okay. For some reason, you sound really far away now.
I do. That's weird.
Okay,
think-
you sound a little better.
I don't know. I didn't change anything.
That's weird. Now it sounds great. So
I think this computer is just old.
Or it went out again.
yeah.
It went
ma-
or muted it, or yeah.
Can we hook up your headphones?
Let me go grab it.
It's weird because you guys are sharing the same internet, correct? You're in the same office.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like she was fragmenting, right? Like her connection was weaker,
Mm-hmm.
but you're in the same place. So it has to be the computer.
Yeah, it's definitely the computer. The one that she's using is a dinosaur of a computer, so I'm sure that's
It's a
the issue.
Neanderthal. Yeah, Neanderthal.
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
But these
It's our-
days, you know, if you have a 2-year-old, it's Neanderthal already. I spent like $4,000 on this one, and
Mhm.
I already need to change it.
yeah. Technology these days just it's hard to keep up with it. Every year there's something bigger and
it's just
better.
insane. It's insane.
Let's see. All right. I'm gonna go check on Ileana if she wants to join us.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I read that the AMD doesn't work well with Zoom, and you know the processors.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zoom has been working on that to make the AMD processor to work better with the video accelerator.
Oh.
And go figure, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you buy a computer, and if he has MAD, you are going to be bad on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, there's a lot of tech issues like that. If you're a Mac user, the newest Mac laptop using the M1 chip is like it's an amazing computer, can do incredible things, but similar issue, certain programs have not been optimized to run on that chip, and so for whatever reason, people are having
Yeah.
issues with it. Yeah.
yeah.
We got about 4 minutes left. Let's get hyped. Do you have a hype song, Justin? You want to play your Hotline Bling song?
No, that's you.
Right.
That's your
Yeah.
theme song. That's
That-
your theme song.
Anytime that I see your screen, I think Hotline Bling. It's the perfect yellow background.
Hey, that's actually, you know what? That's actually what I'm gonna go with. That's exactly why I picked this.
I like it.
you
That's
you never go
Certified
wrong
lover
with
boy.
you never go wrong with some cool jazz, right? Or bossa nova.
Hey, there we
Like the
go.
hotel, yeah, right, hotel. You know, when you went to a hotel, you know, there is always some jazz
yeah.
or bossa nova there. You never go wrong.
Never
yeah.
go
Never.
wrong.
Perfect. All right. Looks like we'll probably be a little smaller of a gathering this lunch and learn. What were our numbers last time? We had about like, I want to say like 70, 80.
Just
one.
about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think everybody's recovering from the holiday for one. And then some people are also celebrating Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, it's Rosh Hashanah
Yeah,
today.
yeah. So,
I did not know that. That's a Jewish holiday, right?
mm-hmm.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. We have a lot of Black Jews, and Latino Jews in our joking.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
Now I
no,
got,
yeah.
now I
And
got it.
you know, you'll be amazed. I used to work for procon.org. It's a think tank,
Mhm.
and they do research for universities and stuff. And I was in charge of the Israeli-Palestinian search.
Mm.
And many Black Israelis from Africa, you know, they converted into Judaism. So
Mm.
Israel has a micro Black Israeli Black. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Zionist, Black Zionist. It's
Mhm.
it's a trip. And but yeah, so you're not that far from
From the reality, right?
Don't
Yeah.
be
Right. And I was
surprised.
just
Yeah,
saying
don't be
because
surprised.
some employers are observing the holiday, is what I
Yeah.
meant. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like a
Alright.
year ago in Zoom, I was able to see how many Spanish listeners I had. Now I cannot see that anymore. They killed that function.
Oh,
Yeah, I was able to see how many listeners I had in that channel, but not anymore.
I wonder why they'd
Mm.
take a feature like
I
that
don't know,
off.
or
Seems
maybe,
important.
yeah, it might be hiding in the host's powers somewhere,
Mm.
but it used to be automatic. Now,
Yeah, it seems particularly useful, especially for, an agency like yours that wants to know, how
for
much they're getting
budgeting,
to.
yeah, no, plus budgeting, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like sometimes I had to hire Armenian and Korean at the same time, and me.
Mhm.
So we know. So the client wants to know, is it worth it to pay for it or not, or whatever.
Mhm. All right, it's 12 o'clock. We ready?
Let's
yep.
do it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, let's start sharing that front page. We'll
Give me
take
just a minute.
Yep.
My screen is all wonky.
There
Okay.
we go. All right, I'm gonna admit all. Let's just wait about 10 seconds for people to get their audio on.
Okay.
And then we'll kick it off. You're gonna do the immediate welcome, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'm admitting all now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. My name is Monia Ilunga. I am the Community Advocacy Coordinator here at Crystal Stairs. Today, Lunch and Learn is going to be about voter registration and the upcoming recall election. Before we get things started, I just want to take some time to thank everyone who has been consistently coming to our Lunch and Learn. I usually take some time to check out the attendees box to see who's coming. And I'm starting to recognize a lot of familiar names. So I wanted to just thank everyone for continuing to come to the Community Voices Lunch and Learn. And thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. And we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna give it to Isaac to mention some few housekeeping information.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monia. So yes, today, as with all of our Lunch and Learn workshops, we will have translation available for those of you who wish to enjoy the discussion today in Spanish. I'm going to have our Spanish translator, Javier, come on to the air right now to just guide you all in how you will go about activating that feature for yourself today. Javier?
Hi, good morning, everyone. So at the bottom of the screen, you are going to see a globe, that is going to give you the option to select a language, either English or Spanish. So select your preferred language and then just forget about it. You're going to be able to enjoy renditions in both languages when necessary. I am going to say exactly the same in Spanish right now. Buen día a todos. Si necesitan interpretación, ahora Isaac va a abrir la interpretación y va a haber un globo terráqueo al calce de la pantalla. Presionen ahí y elijan el idioma español, el canal, para poder oír la interpretación al español. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Isaac.
Thank you, Javier. All right, I'm going to activate that feature right now. So you should start to see that world icon right now. If you look at your dock and you want to see that, you want to hear things in Spanish, please click on interpretation and you'll be able to get that feature. Awesome. So we'll go to the next bit here. Today is a virtual workshop. Monia, can you click to the next page? Perfect. So this is a virtual workshop to keep the audio channel clear, because we do tend to have between 40 to 80 people on these lunch and learns. We want to be able to hear from the presenters, from those who are speaking today, but that doesn't mean that you won't be able to participate in the discussion. We do encourage you to use the chat to be able to communicate your thoughts, your ideas, your feelings with us. So please give us a shout out on the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. Of course, if technology gets wonky, maybe your screen's not showing, maybe you're not hearing us correctly, we do recommend that you do the old off and on trick with technology. Just turn off your Zoom, exit out of the Zoom, and then log back in. You should be able to fix most issues by doing that. A quick log off and log in. We will be recording today's session, so if at any point you do get kicked off and you're not able to join us, do not worry. We will be sending a copy of today's workshop to you all on YouTube. So we'll provide the recording at a later time. So don't worry about that. There are no breaks because we try to do all of this in 1 hour. But please, if you need to go relieve yourself, get a bite to eat, feel free to do so. Please just in the chat section, as you guys are sharing your thoughts, and we're talking about sensitive things like politics, right? We want to make sure that this is a secure and respectful zone. We do not all think alike. We do not all have the same opinion, right? But we can love one another and be kind to one another. So let's practice that, and let's keep this a judgment-free zone. So let's respect everyone's confidentiality. Let's open our ears to the discussion today. And thank you, Monia and Justin, for leading us in today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Okay, let's see. So most of you guys already know about the Community Voices program. We've been around for about 15 years, actually 16 years now. We've had over 2,000 people advocate and be members of the Community Voices program. We've hosted over 1,000 advocacy workshops and trainings, and we've had over 250 partnership with different organizations within the LA County area. We've also had over 100 meetings with elected officials, and this program has been around for quite some time now. And the goal of the program is really to teach our communities on how to advocate for themselves. As I mentioned earlier, this is what Community Voices do. We aim to educate, so we give parents, community members, actually whoever is interested, the support they need to become better advocates for themselves, their children, and also their communities. And we also aim to advocate. We aim to raise the level of engagement with policymakers and experts in the childcare field. And last but not least, we aim to empower. We want to empower our community members, our parents, and basically any Community Voices member to feel, to have the desire or the strength to advocate for their own communities. And these are some of the accomplishments that we've done as a CV within the Community Voices program. We've partnered with different organizations such as Parent Voices to advocate on different issues. But really, essentially, the Community Voices program is really a community-based program, right? It's about engaging our communities and the communities that we serve. The Community Voices program is also about civic engagement. It's about identifying and developing leaders within our communities to then help this program run and help those leaders advocate for themselves, their family, or any issues that are relevant to not only the Community Voices program, but also to Crystal Stairs. And these are some of the activities that we've done in the past. Some of these trips are Sacramento, DC, so different events we've had or visit with the elected officials that we've done in the past. And we just like to show that information because it's important to not only talk about this kind of work, but also show the work that we do as a program. So today's Lunch and Learn is, as I mentioned before, is going to be about the upcoming voter registration day. Voter registration day is on September 28th. And then we also have the recall elections on the 14th. So we thought it was very imperative to have this, what I like to call is an informational conversation about voter registration, the importance of voting, and the upcoming recall election. So we'll cover voter registration, we'll cover voting during the pandemic, and we'll cover the California recall election. And our speaker today is Justin. You guys know Justin very well. He's been on a Lunch and Learn before. I'm always thrilled to have him on board. He's been so supportive with my journey with Crystal Stairs, but also I consider Justin our personal public policy subject matter experts. I feel like anytime I have questions about public policy that I don't understand about voting, for instance, I definitely rely on Justin to kind of educate me and inform me whenever needed. So Justin is going to be part of a Lunch and Learn today. I'm so thrilled to have him again. I will let Justin introduce himself briefly as well, and then we'll get started. Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Monia, and thanks, Isaac and Javier, and everyone for joining us today. I'm excited to always join Lunch and Learn. These are, obviously community is within it. I think that it's just really important as we always continue to engage each other. It's really, how are we information sharing? How are we able to make sure that those of us, in the community, are aware, and maybe we are the aware ones, but there's always information that we can be able to share with whether it's our family members, co-workers, community members, neighbors, all those things. And so this is the space to really be able to do that information sharing, talk about all the things that are going on in this exciting time. I'll describe it as that for now. And, we are really excited to be able to host this. And I'm really excited to be able to share with you just some information on voting, the recall election, and, what is our call to action here as a Community Voices members and supporters of this. So thank you, Monia.
Thank you, Justin. All right. So we'll get right into it. We're going to start with voter registration day. September is it's a very important month. I think for me growing up, it was always November. That's like drilled into your head, like November is the most important month when it comes to voting. But I think September is equally important, especially living in California now. So one thing is National Voter Registration Day is on September 28th, as I mentioned earlier before. The date does change. It usually happens on every fourth Tuesday of September. It's a nonpartisan civic holiday to get Americans registered to vote and to get ready to vote. So what the events around National Voter Registration Day, usually you share registration opportunities and information before the respective states' deadlines, essentially. But to get people registered to vote, get people engaged to vote and excited to vote, that's essentially what the holiday is about. So I was able to do a bit of research and find relevant information about the holiday. I think one fun fact was that since 2012, they've been able to get 4.5 million voters registered on that specific holiday, which is a huge amount of people to get registered to vote. So I thought that was pretty cool. So why do we celebrate National Voter Registration Day? As I mentioned earlier, it's a holiday to get people engaged, if we're interested in voting. As many as 1 in 4 eligible Americans are not registered to vote, which I didn't know this, which is a pretty big number. This figure is even higher for youth and communities of color, which is also part of the big reason why we decided to do this, because we do serve Black and Brown communities. So we thought it was imperative to not only have this lunch and learn, but also making sure that our communities remain engaged, because when we go vote, we do make a difference. I know sometimes it feels like it's not a huge difference, or sometimes, we don't get the outcome that we want. But I do think that it's imperative to have a voice and to vote. The next point is millions of Americans miss elections each year due to registration problem or missing deadlines. And that has happened to me before. I had registered, but I guess my registration had not gone through. So when I got to the voting poll, I couldn't vote, or they told me, well, you need to go here. I was eventually able to vote on that day, but always making sure that your information is correct. So now I've gotten to the habit of always checking the website and making sure to check where I'm registered and if I'm still registered, because you never know what may happen. So that's important. And then fun fact about me, I am actually originally from the Congo. I was born and raised there. So for the longest time, I actually could not vote. And then once I became a permanent resident, I can only vote in certain elections. I think it was only the local elections. So anything other than that, I couldn't vote. So I actually had to learn how to vote, right? And I feel like even after, because I became a citizen about 10 years ago, and even after that, I still have questions sometimes, like, well, what does that mean? How does this affect me? Where do I go for this? Or how do I find this information? So this is definitely a subject that's still relevant in my life and still kind of new to me, to be honest, even after 10 years. I remember last week having a conversation with Justin. I was like, I'm gonna have a dumb question for you, but I still need to ask this question. And I was like, so how does the recall election work? Because I had never experienced a recall election before. I left California about 11 years ago and recently moved back. So I'm pretty new to this as well. And, Justin kind of just walked me through it and explained, this is how it works. This is what you're supposed to do. So here we are again, having this conversation with our members and our communities. So one of the first questions, Justin, I think people really need to know, I think it's like a no-brainer for me, is, am I eligible to vote? What does it take to be able to vote?
Right. Yeah. No. And I want to even before I answer the question, I want to say thank you for sharing, that personal story about voting. A lot of us, are, although being registered to vote or weren't registered to vote at a time, often have, simple questions. We may think they are silly or whatever, but no question is stupid, for the sake of the words. But
Right.
I really wanted to be able to talk about, even before I move forward with that question. You mentioned some things in the previous slide just around just why National Voter Registration Day is important. Why do we even talk about it? I think there's just some quick statistics I just want to briefly highlight, and then I'll move forward. But over 4 million Americans will turn 18 eligible to vote this year, right? So our Gen
Wow.
Z, our young voters who we really need to engage in this recall election, I'll talk about that later. As many as 30 million Americans will move and need to update their voter registration. So I know people are like, well, it's voter registration drives happening all the time. Why is that happening? I'm already registered to vote. Well, sometimes we move and, our voter registration status is the last thing, quite frankly, a lot of us are thinking about.
Yep.
And, I know I'm registered to vote, but I'm not getting the ballot in the mail. Well, you have to go in and do that yourself in terms of changing your address. This also happens when you get married. You need to update your voter registration status in terms of the name, and one of the things, and we're seeing this across the country, most recently, unfortunately, in Texas, where you see these restrictive voting laws coming into place. But there's all these different, variables of why Americans can be purged. So you, as a voter, could be purged from being, able to vote and participate in elections because of things, and there's a whole plethora of reasons why that can happen. So it's just always good to be very engaged civically and
right.
right, and so
aware, right?
Yeah, right, and be very aware of what's going on, because there's just so many things going on. And this is how you mentioned a special election. It came about really fast, but there's so many important things at hand that we need to really be able to discuss. And we're going to really talk about that process.
Right.
That you
And then
mentioned.
one thing I definitely want to give a kudos to the state of California, I guess. When I lived in Missouri, when I transferred my license to Missouri, and I was pretty young at the time, and to be honest with you, I was not as engaged as I am today about voting or elections or politics for that matter. But getting my license there, I was never asked about voter registration. When you're applying for just your ID or your license, you're never asked those questions there. But when I was switching my license here in California to a California license, that question came up a lot at the DMV. So imagine you're at the DMV all day and you're annoyed, but people kept asking you, are you registered to vote? Do you want to register here since you're already here? So that's already, I think that's also a pretty awesome thing because it happens right then and there, and you don't have to do an extra trip or find extra forms or find where you can, register to vote yourself because you're right there at the DMV. It happens right there. As long as you say yes, they will get you set up. So I thought that was pretty awesome since I went through that process recently. So
Yeah, and to go back to the question, am I eligible to vote? There's, again, a lot of these different things, nuances that were going on. I mean, for instance, there was a proposition to even tackle that second bullet point of at least being 18 years old that, didn't, go through. But, there's all these different things going on. And so one thing I also always like to highlight when talking about eligibility for voting is, really talking about the population of our formerly incarcerated. There's this idea of new Jim Crow, you're a second class citizen when you go through these things of incarceration. And there's a lot of opportunities for our formerly incarcerated to not only be, able to participate in the election process, but be actively involved and be able to cast their vote that a lot of people aren't aware of. And so I always just want to elevate that, although being formerly incarcerated, you always have the opportunity to vote after. So just wanted to highlight that one, raise that one very quickly. But yeah, I mean, it's just very important to vote. I think that one of the big things that we have to be able to also address is, I want to go back to it again, is our youth, 18 to 34, that Gen Z millennial generations, there's this thing of, I know when you get your ID, you're provisionally registered to vote, but a lot of times, your voter registration status isn't necessarily picked up. So we got to make sure we're engaging our young people to get out and vote. I'm going to share some demographics later once we talk about the recall. But, again, it's the same type of conversations we're having. So we really have to be intentional on how are we changing our language to really encourage our young people to get out and vote, whether it's a special election or a presidential election cycle as well.
all right, Justin. So what are the voting options for 2021? I know for me, being new to California, quote unquote, new to LA since I just moved back, but like being able to know what the options were, especially during a pandemic. I think most people think that, okay, what can I do? Where should I go? Do I go physically? And some folks have preferences, right? Some people, I want to be there in the building at the voting poll with my pen or my pencil or at the booth and, do my thing. And I thought it would be important for us to kind of touch on that and discuss what are the options in terms of voting for 2021.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'll definitely say I'm sure some of us on this call can relate that for me at least, my mom, my grandmother, although now vote by mail, but still we're very our seasoned voters were always definitely the ones like, well, I want to vote at the actual voting center. And definitely got to respect this. For some people it's a family tradition. So you can never, negate that. But one of the things California did, which I think is really great, and when I say great, I say in terms of there's really no excuse not to vote when we're talking about voting by mail, right? The ballot comes to you. You don't have to go to the voting center and stand in lines. Obviously we have elections law, where we're able to have that time off to go vote. But, it's a hassle for some people, right? But voting by mail isn't, right? It just us, taking it out of that mail, I don't want to say junk of mail, but that packet of mail that we get that one weekend that they slid in the ballot, it'll be sitting there for a while, but we got to make sure we grab it when we first see it and submit it or fill it out and submit it and, be done with it. It takes a very short amount of time. But one thing I want to highlight though, for those who are, talking about, okay, what's going on with the voting and, how do I vote in this recall election that is literally a week from today. As of September 4th, voting centers, select voting centers have been open. So, you can begin to be able to vote in the centers, and then all of them will be open by September 11th. And one good thing that came out of, a host of good things, but another good thing I want to raise and elevate is that you can now be able to track your ballot, which is a really great system. My mom, actually going back to her, she just told me last week how when she submitted hers, she got the little certified email in the mail or in her email saying, that her ballot got to the registrar's office and it's being counted. So, for those of us, speaking to those of us who are, fearful of, putting things in the mail and make it lost, so on and so forth. We've heard the conversations about that in the community. But these are these different systems that California and even our county is setting up to ensure that we have a voice, in every election opportunity
Right.
or voting opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely imperative.
Mhm.
Let's see. We'll go to the next slide if my computer cooperates. All right, so I think we touched on that as well, Justin, but register and make a plan to vote. Do you want to talk more about that, or do you feel like we've got that covered?
Yeah, I'll just briefly say this. There's things that and I'm gonna put this in the chat. So say I had a friend of mine say that they hey, I'm registered to vote, but I didn't receive my ballot in the mail. I didn't move anywhere. I've been living here for years. What do I do? Sometimes, human error, sometimes the ballot just didn't make it to our house for whatever reason, right? We're not going to assume whatever, but you do have the opportunity to request a ballot, right? And be able to, get that ballot in the mail. At this point in time, though, with it being a week away, it'll be very difficult. So you may have to be able to potentially go to the voting center to be able to vote. But again, I want to be able to just highlight this, very unique resource that many people aren't aware of, that you can be able to get your ballot replaced. And it's very essential that, again, we are staying on top of voting. Our young people, I'm gonna say it again, our young people, any of us, I'm sure we have parents, uncles, aunts, so on and so forth. Please encourage your young people to get out and vote. But go ahead.
Yeah, so how to register to vote. Justin has touched on that, but definitely check out lavote.net for the most up-to-date information. If you have any more questions about how to get yourself registered and ready to vote.
Yeah, and I'm putting another link in the chat, or at least, it's a link and also a number for the Secretary of State's office, just about any other general, very technical question that you may have about voting that may be specific to your situation. Secretary of State's office is always available, and then also the LA County Registrar.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's see. So Justin, some people may have not gotten their ballots already. I know I got mine already, but typically we'll focus on the process of the recall election. So tell us about that process. When do people expect to receive their ballots?
Right. So great question. Everyone should have got their ballots at least, initially be sent out by August 16th. There's some lag in mail time. So you may have received it a week, after, so on and so forth. And, that's why it's good that I had mentioned that earlier. Say if you didn't receive your ballot, you did have the opportunity to request a ballot in the mail, and then also use the opportunity to check to see if, your address and name and everything like that is updated. And it's also really important, I didn't mention it earlier, but it's really important to also make sure that they, oftentimes we don't talk about this, but there's a signature verification as well on your ballot, and they match it up to the one that they have on file. Usually it's from your driver's license, right?
Okay.
And you need to be sure that it's accurately filled, the way that you did it, so the signature verification can line up. They will send you a notification saying, hey, there may be something wrong with your ballot. They'll send you another one to be able to revote again. So that does happen from the registrar's office. But to get into this recall, I know that a lot of people have questions about it. I know it's a 2-question. It's something that I want to say, and don't quote me on the exact number, but I want to say it's been 54 attempts in the state of California for a governor to be recalled since 1911, when the recall ability was enacted in the state of California. Again, I learned that because I was watching the news yesterday, right? And I was like, oh, let me figure out something to make me sound smart. No, I'm playing, but no, so I just want to give some kind of historical context, right? And then the last time we had a which you would call a successful recall, where a governor was recalled. Gray Davis was back in 2003 and was replaced with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that happened in 2003. So it although 54 attempts, I want to say, that was the one attempt, excuse me, that went successful. So just kind of give you guys some historical context. Some people are like, did we vote the Terminator? It's like, no, it actually happened through a recall. So I always just want to bring that up. But again, how we mentioned lastly that, in-person polling sites will open September 4th, and obviously until election day, 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah, I do remember that recall. I mean, I couldn't vote at the time. I was still a permanent resident, so I couldn't vote at all. But I do remember seeing a lot of it on the news, and honestly, not really being that engaged because I was like 18 or 19 at the time.
Right.
And I just don't really think I cared that much. And also, I couldn't vote, so I really didn't care at that point. So it's definitely been interesting to be on the other side this time around, where I'm more engaged. I'm older. I am a U.S. citizen now, and I can actually vote. So it kind of feels like.
Oh, go ahead. Go finish.
It kind of feels like these things matter to me now, as my life has changed in the U.S.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, not to age myself or not age myself. I was probably still watching Disney Channel and Nickelodeon. I was all happening.
I guess I just aged myself then.
So definitely understandable. Yeah.
Okay, so what can people expect on the ballot, Justin? I know my question for you last week was, well, Justin, I got my ballot. There's this one question. Once I answer the question, do I close it up, send it in the mail? Is there more that I need to do? So tell us about that process.
Yeah, no, and it's a really great question to ask, and it's the biggest thing that we're talking about. So I'm going to read off the slide because I want to be very specific and be very intentional with my wording, and then I'll kind of explain a little after. So again, what will be on the ballot? There are 2 questions on the ballot. The first is a yes or no question: shall the governor be recalled? Which is removed from office of the governor. A response yes is a vote to remove the governor from office, while a no response is a vote to keep him as governor. If you vote yes in the first part, answer the second question by picking one of the replacement candidates from the list.
Okay.
So I mean, if I hope all of us, hopefully I don't know if everybody's able to use their interactions, but have we all been able to see the ballot yet, at least? I don't know if we could, it could be any type of reaction.
Right. I see Isaac responding, so he's and I have mine as well. But I think that's why I was confused. I was like, so is there like a next step once I do this?
Right. No, it's a very great question. And one of the big things that also that goes on, and there's 46 candidates or 46 opponents going against the governor. So it's a very large, number of, I want to say 2 to 3 pages or something like that. It's really long. So you're like, what's going on, right? So but I do want to go to the next slide because I know there's something really important over there.
Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and do that.
But also, while I'm talking about it, it actually go back to the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I want to use this time to kind of plug in that I'm pulling up some more numbers. Now you guys can quote me on these numbers. And our actually our attorney is on the Zoom too, so he can quote me.
On there.
Yeah,
so he'll correct you if
Roy,
you're
you
wrong.
could
Good.
no, Roy, you can quote me on this one, right? So I have it in front of me, but so as of right now, we only have 26% of ballots returned in Los Angeles County, right?
Okay.
You know, or excuse me, not in Los Angeles County, but in the state of California. You know, the demographics I posted on my social media this morning, but the demographics of who's turned in their ballot kind of really is the purpose of why we have like community voices, for instance, why we have a lot of the initiatives we have for our Black and Brown communities on the issue or the engagement of civically being involved in registering to vote, participating in the election process, so on and so forth. So I just want to highlight these numbers very quickly. So as of now, as of September 6th, we'll have another one before the end of this week. But we have only out of 18 to 34, the age group of 18 to 34, we only have 14% of people return their ballots who are in that Gen Z, millennial generation groups, right? And then in terms of ethnic groups in the demographics, we have African Americans being at 24% and Latinos being at 17%, right? Now, if you compare this to our counterparts, you know, white people, other at 31%, and if you compare the age group demographic to, you know, from 18 to 34 to the, you know, maybe our more seasoned voters, it's at 45%, right? So there's voting that's always happening, whether it's local level to president, you know, federal level, but the same type of trend of young people not coming out to vote, and then also our Black and Brown community not being able to, you know, be involved in the process are things we always need to address. And I just want to use this, you know, moment to just highlight that as of now, we're the, you know, the lowest in numbers on these different intersectionality of things, right? So share that number with people, guys. You know, you have ballots that come in the mail. If you haven't, you know, send for a replacement ballot, but then also know that you can be able to vote provisionally at the voting centers as well. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Encourage your friends to vote.
Yes, please, please.
So Justin, once this is all done, said and done, what exactly happens after the election? Yes,
so now this is where where a lot of questions are. So it's like, okay, I voted for what's going on now. So September 14th is election day. This day is a week from today, right? So very soon. And I want to be able to read this directly, you know, so there's no confusion. So I will, if more than 50% of voters respond no, the governor will remain in office throughout the remainder of his term ending January 2nd, 2023. If more than 50% of voters respond yes, the governor will be removed from office and replaced with the candidate who tallied the most votes. So as I said, there were 46 candidates, the 46 candidate pool. Now, depending on who gets the most out of those 46, say if the governor, you know, has more than 50% respond yes under number one, then it will trigger number two, and then whoever has those most tallied votes will be the one who's now going to be the new governor, which would then, that person would take office by October. So in less than a month once all this happens. So it will happen very fast. Now, here's the thing that, you know, I read articles, I'm hearing about it in the community, I see it on social media, they're like, okay, well, the recall ballot has two parts. You know, do I have to vote on both things, even if I'm saying no, or, whatever what's going on, right? So I took this directly from the Secretary of State's office because, it's very nonpartisan how we want to discuss it. But I do want to be able to address this because I know this is something that, it's a question that we all have, right? Recall
Right.
ballots have two parts. Must voters vote on both parts of the recall? The short answer is no, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and voters can vote on either one or both parts of the recall ballot. A voter can vote no to the question of removing the current elected officer from office and select a replacement candidate. So, straight to the point answer, but I hope that was very clear enough to, that question that I don't know about you, Monia, but I've heard it a lot,
Right.
recently.
I mean, it was a question I had. I'm like, okay,
Mhm,
so
right.
if I vote no, and then having to be worried about not having a say in then who's chosen, right? Because if I
Right.
vote no and he doesn't get 50% or more, then I'm going to feel like I didn't have a say in who was selected because I didn't put anything on that second part. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that was something that I was, concerned and had questions about, like, okay, so if I vote no, but then he still doesn't make it, I want to be able to at least have some control, in quotation mark, on, who is selected. So yeah, you're right. So that question definitely does come up a lot because I know I had it as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, just want to clarify that, and just be very direct about how, you should go about that. But yeah,
Right.
yeah.
All right, next time. And I think we've already had this conversation. I think that's been like the essence of our lunch and learn today, but what should someone vote, Justin?
Yeah, why should you vote, right? Well, the first thing is the governor, I wanted to just, leave us with a very short sentence on it, but, the governor is the seat of the governor is a very powerful position that greatly influences policy and funding for all Californians. As I mentioned about what's going on with, our current return ballots in the state of California, as of September 16th, we're looking at only 26% have returned their ballots. 16 million ballots are still at people's houses as of September 6th, right?
I know mine
And
is, but it's
right.
going in the mail this week.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna track your ballot. No, I'm just playing.
Right.
But but we need to, seriously be able to, find ways to, communicate to the different groups, whether it's the young, whether it's the Black and Brown community, on why it's important to vote, but really being able to communicate a message that allows those different groups to have a seat at the table once we do vote someone, into elected position, or we're voting on propositions, right?
Right.
There's been great opportunity for many different things to happen in the past, or we've been able to, as the voting democracy, been able to stop things from happening because we were civically involved. And so this all happens when we're, getting on these types of spaces, when we're having conversations at the dinner table with family members or even with friends as well. I mean, it's a pandemic still, it hasn't stopped at all.
Right.
But there's still a lot of work to be done for our community, and we got to still be engaged at every level, right?
Absolutely. And I love that you wrote that it is a powerful position to be in terms of voting, coming from a politically unstable country. For a while, people couldn't vote. I mean, we had elections, right? But it wasn't really happening the way they were supposed to happen. And then when elections did happen in the Congo, there was a lot of political unrest, political unrest within the country, or people who were not allowed to go voting. So I think for me, it's very personal in a sense, because I recognize that in my country, at some point, I didn't have that privilege to vote and have my voice be heard, or have my voice make a decision, even if it's a small fraction. And then to be here and to be able to vote comfortably, freely, without any kind of, without feeling unsafe, because in some countries, sometimes elections are so unsafe and people are afraid to go out and vote because it's an unsafe position to be in. So I think that phrase is so powerful. Like, it's a powerful position to be in, and we live in a country where it's absolutely an option, and you don't have to worry about your life, like in some countries. So
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, and that's a really great point. I think that one of the big things that we talk about in American history is that, and the late great Congressman John Lewis had always talked about, was getting in good trouble, right, and really being
right,
able to disrupt the system that disenfranchised so many of us from voting. And although yes, history, but I mean that wasn't too far removed. It was not
too
too
far
far
removed, right?
removed, right? I mean, my grandmother is currently alive and had lived through that time, right? So all this is still fresh. And I think that it's just really important that we always continue to talk about, yes, there was some wins within the movement, but there's still a lot of healing, a lot of reparations, a lot of
A lot of work to
atonement.
do.
Yeah, and it's a
Yeah,
lot of work to do internally within our communities to really address these different things systemically affecting us from our many different angles of looking at policy and things that are affecting our family day to day.
yeah. And I remind myself that we live in a country where it's a system where it works essentially. You may not always have the outcome that you want or hope for, but it's there in place, and it is a system that does work.
Right.
As you say, there's still a lot of work to do, especially for Black and Brown communities. But I think voting exists, and it's there, and it works, and we just have to keep at it essentially.
Right, right. And good point you mentioned is that, it's, nothing's perfect, right?
Right.
Ideally we want to have the perfect democracy of voting, none of these things going on that I don't even want to
Exactly.
mention today. But, there's still, reason to vote. There's still reason to get out there and not only you vote as a person, but also encouraging people. I think that idea of like each one teach one, right? I think in our communities, I really like to look at it, speak on an even cultural level, that we always, our communities, our Black and Brown communities are really good at, sharing information through, just speaking it, word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we're not always, have time to read or look into articles, watch the news and stuff. I could tell y'all, I just learned it yesterday, but recalls began in 1911 in California. Not a lot of us have that time to, look at stuff. So
And do the research, right?
Right, and do the research. So that's
why I rely on you.
Right, so that's why it's like, how are we all using our, our positions, using our influence to be able to communicate using this platform, right? I hope that somebody uses that statistic, and Roy could use the statistic about I was just talking about the what I mean? But we really need to be able to have these different conversations because that's how change comes. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does. We're moving the needle forward, and we must continue to, and that can only happen when we participate civically.
And continue to engage civically. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know we have. I saw at least one question already, but I know we mentioned it earlier. But if there's any questions as we are slowly concluding, please put them in the chat. We want to make sure that questions we can answer, we definitely address them while we're all on here because somebody else may have that question as well.
Right.
And it could be around the recall, it can be around voter registration, voting in general. So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, and the timing was perfect because we are at the question slide. Justin, I don't know if you had, if you caught any questions on the group chat.
Yeah, I actually
Just to
did.
be sure.
Yeah, I actually did. I just lost it. Oh, here it is. So I'll even speak it out loud. So as we get so many voting pamphlets delivered to our home, how would you suggest one go about reviewing and understand the various propositions?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, very good one. And one of the things I always talk about is, when it comes to it being election season, so I'll throw out there right now, no propositions going on this ballot, that's that on this election, that's September 14th. But I mean, it's still very good to know about this information.
No, in general,
yeah. I always tell people, you have to be able to discern information. There's a there's, overwhelming a lot of information that comes to us in the mail during election times. Trust me, I know. But, there are all these different resources that, you can be able to, look at to be able to get a very nonpartisan look at things. And so I always think that's just very important, being seeing objective or seeing policies, or whether it's candidates or propositions, for instance, that are, on a ballot, really looking at the very nonpartisan view of them, which is essentially, a very neutral look at, yes, if you vote yes on this, this is what this does. If you vote no on this, this is what this does. Because
Right.
then you're able to really gather and really weigh the pros and cons of how this might affect you individually, your family, your
Your
friends, and
community.
your community at large, right? So I
Right.
always just tell people to just really look through and really discern, look at different, sources, read articles, but also look at different organizations that are nonpartisan, that are putting out information that's just very objective. This is what this means. If this happens, this is what this means. If it doesn't happen, so on and so forth. So I hope that answered the question. Again, just continue to engage in a lot of different sources as you come to making your decision.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's great. Let's see. I don't know if anyone else had any more questions before we wrap things up. Let's see, Justin. No, I think that was all the questions. We've got a few great comments in there, and some few questions, but we've had a pretty quiet crowd today. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I didn't get to say anything. I didn't get to make my joke earlier, but I was gonna say, like, I wish I could see everybody's beautiful faces.
Right.
But like, this is just you and me talking here. No, I'm kidding.
Right.
But I do appreciate everyone
I
coming
actually have
on.
a quick
Oh,
quick question for you guys. It just kind of came to me. No one really talked about this, so I thought I'd mention it. For both of you, as you are, trying, as you look at what's going on in our state, and elections coming up, how do you stay abreast of the issues in an informed way, so that you're not, uh, being fed information that you already believe, but are educating yourself on both sides so that you can make an informed decision? Do you have any thoughts on that? Any sites that you go to that try to really get down to the facts without being muddied by political agendas and such?
I'll go first. I think for me professionally, right, because I have my professional life here at Crystal Stairs, and I have my personal life outside of work. But I think within my professional life, I am on a few committees which inform me about what's going on, especially when it's specific to childcare policies. Um, and I hate to always say this, but I also have Justin. Justin is our public policy associate. So anytime I have a question that's about policies or about, voting dates or whatnot, I have relied on him to say, hey, Justin, what does this mean? Or when is this going to happen? I know when we're talking about the budget, again, I was fairly new to that process. I mean, I knew what it meant. I knew what it entailed, but to know exactly like how this affects our communities, our providers, or Black and Brown communities, I would ask him those questions, and he would either give me websites or articles to read, but also being able to participate in different committees professionally allow me to stay informed. In my personal life, I definitely rely on family a lot to be informed, because I always believe that if there's a policy out there or a proposition out there that affects me directly, my family will bring it to my attention. I have an uncle who's also been in the US for a very long time, that I rely on a lot about anything that's about politics or how to vote or who should I vote for. What does this proposition mean? How does this affect me? So I rely on family, and also doing my own research. Like Justin mentioned earlier, finding websites that are very objective and kind of stick to the facts and stick to giving you the information that you need so that you can make an educated decision on your own. You want to go ahead, Justin?
yeah, no, I agree. I want to always, I use this organization often, the League of Women Voters. Great organization, nonpartisan. They even come and, I'm not sure with the pandemic, but, they even come out to, say if you're hosting something for a community group or organization. I know we have some partners on here that I'm sure are already aware of them, but, they have this definite active convening of, ensuring that they're not only sharing information, but they're hosting workshops and stuff of that nature. And then also, you look at different websites like Ballotopia and all these other ones. But again, that's why I always said, very specifically look at the nonpartisan, organizations or information shares, just so you can be able to get that objective. This is if it happens, this is if it doesn't happen type of feel. That way you're able to, look at, how Isaac, you even said, look at, both sides of the coin and be able to make your determination based off of that. So I always encourage people to do that. I see someone else put something in the chat as well. Javier, thank you for sharing that. So, there's a lot of different organizations and different websites that do that. I mean, if any of our, anyone here on the call has anything, please share. Again, as we receive information, we also receive information from you. So I would love to, if you have any that you have, definitely share them in the chat. Again, we always like to hone in on this is a large information sharing session, right? We wanted to talk about the process of the recall, but also talk about why it's so important that we get our, I'm gonna plug it in again, our young people out to vote and our African-American Latino community out to vote as well, because of September 6th, we are the lowest turnouts in the state of California. Yeah, well, they counted as of September 6th.
Okay, the day before,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so, again, let's encourage our people to vote. It's extremely important, regardless of what you choose, that you just participate.
Justin, I did have one question. I feel like I should have asked that question in the very beginning. But how do we get here? When I mean get here, to the recall election part. Can you talk to us about that process briefly, if you can?
Yeah, so one of the things about the recall is that, how do I say this? So a recall is started based off of, you're able to get so many signatures. What I'll say is that, as this election law was, signed into place, again in 1911, I'm gonna sound smart again, right? There's the requirement that you get so many signatures for this election. They needed, or the campaign of those who were initiating this got over 24 or 2 million, something around that, but only 14 million were, or 1.4 million were verified. So anyway, it's the whole process of it. Involves community to really actively sign something to get this ball rolling. So, that's how it happens. And, once it's certified to happen through the Secretary of State's office, the ball gets rolling. So yeah, that's a very short way of being able to try to explain.
We'll have a conversation about it after this.
But I will say that information is definitely readily available if you want to kind of get into the technical side of all the things. But again, it started by signatures, and then the Secretary of State's election officials being able to validate those, and then they move forward with
so essentially like a petition, right?
A petition, yes, that's exactly. Yep.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right. If we don't have any more questions, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. Again, I want to thank everyone for attending our Lunch and Learn today. As I mentioned earlier today, this is my fourth, maybe fifth Lunch and Learn. It's really been great to see familiar names on my attendee list, and having you guys spend your lunch hour with us and having these great discussions. So I want to thank everyone who's continued to come to our Lunch and Learn. Thank you, Justin, for always agreeing to be my subject matter expert, on these Lunch and Learns as well. And just going forward, if you attendees are ever interested in partnerships with Crystal Stairs, whether it's advocacy efforts, fundraising, or program design, please feel free to contact us at any time. My phone number is going to be listed right here with an email address as well. And thank you again for coming. I don't know if Justin or Isaac wanted to add anything else.
For me, just thank you again. Let's get our young people and our Black and brown communities out to vote. But again, thank you all for participating. Please share this information with any and everyone. We have a week from today for the election day being a week from today. So things are rapidly happening. So please continue to stay engaged with our social media posts, be engaged with what's going on the news, continue to look in these nonpartisan organizations that give you very objective information sharing on the election, in future elections when they talk about propositions and candidates, because that type of information will definitely, in my opinion, make things easier for you to make the right decision on who you want to vote for. So again, thank you all, and I'll see you again soon.
Yes, thank you. And
Thank
just
you,
to let you
everyone.
all know, we will be sending you all a follow-up email with some of the links that we shared today, a copy of the video so that you can return to it if you want, share it with a colleague. So thank you so much. You guys have a great day.